Today we're listing 10 reasons why the royal family is a waste of money. Starting off with number 10, do the royals cost the government money or do they make it money? The royals draw tourist dollars as well as publicity for Britain. In 2017, the monarchy boosted tourism in the UK by more than $640 million. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Even though the sovereign grant is growing, which means more money for the royals, the Crown Estate still provides a lot of money to the government. Anti-monarchy groups don't really think the royal family brings in money. What do you guys think? Are they just being haters or do you agree? They think the monarchy costs the country about $400 million a year. It was estimated that the government's cost to protect the family was over $100 million annually. $100 million to protect a family? I mean, that money could have gone towards better causes like helping with the problem of homelessness or providing money to low-income families, but instead they really said, let's put millions of dollars towards protecting one of the richest families in the world. It might be possible that the royal family would draw an equal amount from tourists while still taking in less money themselves. The historic buildings and memorabilia could likely draw in tourists even if there was no current royal family. So we may never know how much of this additional tourism revenue is actually directly tied to the royal family's current position. After becoming king, Charles hopes to slim down the monarchy with fewer senior royals involved in public engagements. He also spoke about opening more royal properties to the public, a move that could technically bring in more revenue. And even though this might be a smart business move, I still think these anti-monarchy groups might be onto something. I just don't think the royal life needs to be this heavily funded by the taxpayers, but that likely isn't gonna change. Number 9 on our list, direct funding for the monarchy through the sovereign grant. Some really important things that the sovereign grant helped with included $92 million renovations to Buckingham Palace. Spending close to $100 million on renovations alone can't possibly be for aesthetic reasons or for tourists visiting the palace. Being royal means their palace and lifestyle has to be as royal as their title. But at that cost? I mean, I can't say that's the most relatable thing, no matter how much they want to be relatable to the general public. I literally can't remember the last time I spent millions of dollars on renovations. But other than that, yeah, this family is totally relatable. Royalists say that these costs represent only £1 a year to every person in the UK. That makes it much better. All British people chipped in for the multi-million-dollar renovations whether they liked it or not. On to number 8, would you ever voluntarily pay taxes if you had the choice not to? If given the chance, I'm sure a lot of us would opt out of ever having to pay taxes, but the Queen used to voluntarily pay income and capital gains tax since 1992 on whatever wasn't used to finance her official work. I'm adding this to my list of reasons the royal family is in fact not relatable. King Charles has also voluntarily paid income tax on his income from another landed estate, the Duchy of Cornwall, since 1993. I think this whole trying to relate to the public is getting out of hand, because why would you voluntarily do something most people hate having to do? But then again, they can afford to pay taxes unlike a lot of the taxpayers who are funding their lifestyle. How ironic. In 2016 to 2017, that estate brought in a revenue of $27 million, on which King Charles paid tax of around $5 million. In fact, most of King Charles's official duties are financed from the duchy's income. This income also covers however much the official duties of Camilla, William, and Kate would cost. The working royals in Charles's direct family get revenues from the sovereign grant too. So when Prince Harry and Meghan left, a lot of their royal income was put to a stop, which caused a bit of friction within the family, but mainly because they wouldn't be fulfilling their responsibilities. Which makes sense, but being cut cold turkey is very rough. The Queen's own funds are also used for her official duties, which means she doesn't have to pay tax on that part of her income. So she does pay taxes, just not all of them. Must be nice. Number 7 on our list, knowing that they are on the taxpayer's dime, the royal family is careful with their public behavior when it comes to extravagant spending. While there are often extreme expenses associated with major events such as weddings, the royal family has been known to fly on budget airlines and fund some of their own travel. But that isn't always true. A few trips these royals have taken in the past few years came with an outrageously priced bill. Charles and Camilla have somehow managed to spend $530,000 on a tour they took through the Caribbean. Damn, what could you guys possibly be spending $500,000 on? Other trips that were pretty pricey were trips taken by Will and Kate, estimating around $130,000. I need to somehow find a way to go on these trips. I know they have a blast. How can you not if you're spending hundreds of thousands? Just in case you haven't noticed, they're very careful of the public persona. They feel like they have this sense of responsibility to the public that funds their lifestyle. So if they were acting reckless, they probably wouldn't have as much support, which makes sense. It's funny when the paparazzi tries to catch them in awkward moments. Is that another thing I'm adding to my list of reasons this family just isn't as relatable as they try to be? Yes. Thinking about being absolutely perfect and delightful all the time just feels so exhausting. Do they still have to act perfect if they lose their luggage at an airport? I know a lot of us would be fuming. If this family woke up one day and decided to become savage, that would make major headlines, and honestly, I would want to tune in. The once royally perfect family goes savage. That's a whole YouTube video right there. I think I'm onto something. Our sixth reason, their financial worries are just so different from the average person. And to think their lifestyle is funded by the regulars is just interesting to think about. We already know they keep up this facade to make it seem like they aren't spending their money recklessly, but let's be real, they're royals. They're accustomed to a lavish life, so who would even stop them if they did want to spend a few extra bucks? Or in their case, a few extra millions if they wanted to. This is me trying to justify their actions. The Cambridges may have downplayed how much they even used the family helicopter. Even if they say it wasn't used very often at all, it is implied that it was being used a bit more than the Queen wanted. Another expense that caused tension for the family was Will and Kate's tour of the Caribbean earlier this year. The cost for chartered flights for that one trip cost $268,000. Can we take that in for a second? The flights alone almost cost them $300,000. What could they have possibly been doing? I actually need answers. The fifth reason is the many petitions made to abolish the monarchy. As much support as this family gets, there are people who really don't want to see this established monarchy continue. What side are you on, for or against the monarchy? And although republicanism isn't a strong force in Britain at the moment, that could change if it fails to attract the support of the younger British population. If the monarchy was abolished, the Queen's or King's consent would disappear. There would be no royal family to influence the country's legislation. It is believed that the people of Britain would actually have a more fair and even democracy. That sounds very intriguing, but I guess not enough for the majority of the population to agree with the removal of the royal family. Number 4, this family has been involved in scandals for generations. Being knee-deep in controversies is not a good look for the representation of Britain, but they somehow managed to pay the news outlets to run stories that promote them in a good way. I mean, they managed to be so perfect that people sweep their complete wrongdoings under a rug, which, might I add, has to be a huge rug. No one is obviously perfect, but the extent to which the royals have been exposed for their controversies is so out of pocket that it's actually shocking. And the fact that these news stories have not at all gotten as much attention as something as mediocre as Meghan and Harry leaving the palace is crazy. Political correspondent Nadine Batchelor-Hunt argued that the royals are becoming increasingly out of place in contemporary society due to the family's past and present scandals. She might be onto something because she's not completely wrong. The third reason on today's top 10, if the king moved out of Buckingham Palace, he wouldn't have to give up all his royal residences. Buckingham Palace has been used as the official working and living headquarters of Britain's monarch since 1837. With over 700 rooms, it would be used by the king to host state banquets and engagements with world leaders and government officials. It's also a prime location for many milestone events and could become a permanent tourist attraction if the king were to officially move out. The palace is property of the Crown Estate, which the late Queen Elizabeth was the owner of while she was the monarch. However, this would change if the new king was no longer head of state. Now, wouldn't that suck? Counting down to number 2, despite the money produced by the monarchy, the royal family is pretty expensive. Back in 2018 to 2019, they cost taxpayers $86 million. This was 41% more than the previous year. How does it make sense that there are thousands of people in debt but the funds towards the royals are increasing? Showing where their money goes. Many agree that the education systems would benefit from this wealth more than old people born into the crown. Not only does the system cost the British public money, but they're also unable to choose which ruler will come next, leaving taxpayers with no power over the system. That takes a huge chunk of their money. If you compare the wealth earned by the royals to the people of the country, it drastically changes the picture. The typical earnings of a full-time employee in England falls at £31,000, while the Queen banks around $42 million for doing whatever exactly it is that she does. Being born into the monarchy means you will never endure the same struggles as most people. They have no financial worries and aren't expected to work a 9-to-5 job. The majority of society works hard to achieve a somewhat comfortable life, while others are spoon-fed. Oh, to be rich. At the end of the day, royals are human too. They didn't ask to be born into wealth. Princess Diana and the Duchess of Sussex are living proof that the spotlight can be terrifying and toxic. Even though the royals may be lucky to have a luxurious lifestyle, this attention can be manipulated when needed. For example, the royal family can release unexpected news to remove negative attention from another member of the family. The British public has no say in who becomes the next monarch, which shows how much control we have in terms of the royal family. If a ruler is deemed unfit by the general public, they can't be voted out. Problematic royals have historically been difficult to remove from positions of power. Another factor to consider is that King Charles was crowned at 73. In the UK, the average age of retirement is 64, meaning you receive a pension not having to work anymore. Should he really receive the title when he's almost a decade over the age of retirement? Charles, I hate to break it to you, but you're getting kind of old. That is all for today's top 10. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, drop a comment if you think the British monarchy should remain or be abolished. I'll catch you next time on The Rich Life.